main reason we haven't signed a absolute, I mean, I think there's probably different reasons. I think we weren't in for Messi this summer quite clearly. I think the club must have felt very let down by him last year with the brinksmanship with Barcelona. As to whether he intended to leave last summer, who knows? Only he will know. But certainly the way it played out was, he wasn't prepared to call Bartomeu's bluff, and if he wasn't prepared to do that, then there wasn't the real strong intent to come at any risk to himself. Ronaldo, who knows if we were ever serious or not. I mean, we all had a great laugh, but were we interested? It sounds like rumours are Pep talked to him and said he couldn't guarantee him a place in the team. He would just come in as any other player. Kane, I guess you're talking about. Ultimately, if Levy was going to sell to an English club, it appears he wanted a absolutely stupid transfer fee, and City don't seem keen to go absolutely stupid. I think they went out their way this year in signing Grealish, which was a totally different deal than we've done before. But when it came to going 150 or rumours of 180, clearly City didn't think that was an investment worth making. As to closing deals, I don't think a director of football in Europe's closed more deals than we have in the last 5 years. And as for the big boys table, well, I mean, what is the big boys table? As far as I'm concerned, there's winning your league, there's winning the cups, and there's winning in Europe. And we've shown we're the preeminent team in this country over the last decade, and by some margin. We haven't yet quite cracked it in the Champions League. We haven't been able to go and win all 4 trophies in a year, but I think we'll get there. It's only a matter of time.
I think as far as Messi is concerned, I think City have been quite naive in wishful hoping on getting Messi. I don't personally think we went after him this summer. I think we'd finally learned after 3 attempts of trying to get him previously. The last summer scenario, he really did manipulate his own way to get what he wanted at Barcelona, which he's done a lot of times at Barcelona when it comes to contract renegotiations.
He didn't get a new contract last year. He just couldn't leave. He just couldn't leave with the last year after the contract.
But previously he'd done that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think City didn't even entertain Messi this summer. I think they weren't even looking at him. Even when he came available, we were halfway down the Kane route. As far as Ronaldo, City didn't go for Ronaldo. Ronaldo's agent made him available to City, and it was quite clearly a tactic to bring out Man United, because let's be honest, Manchester United didn't want Ronaldo until they found out that City were on the verge of signing him, because he didn't have any other offers from anywhere else in the world, and he wanted out from Juventus. Juventus obviously got financial issues, which probably 99.9% of the clubs in the world have got financial issues at the moment after the pandemic. And I personally think that City, we're not over keen on signing Ronaldo. And then once United made a noise, that was it. It was done. It was going back to United. So they just panicked. They couldn't bear the thought of City getting Ronaldo. So I think those two, they're welcome to him. He's 37 years of age, near enough. So I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you. I am concerned in our naivety and the way we're handling transfers, and especially the big ones, when we're going out to go and get players and being able to close a deal, to me, is a concern. With Harry Kane we've been chasing Harry Kane for 4.5 months, and at no point did Levy ever pick the phone up or answer the phone to Chicky. At no point at City. So if that is the truth and that is the gauge, after 1 month I'd have walked away from that and gone in a different direction. because there's no point in trying to do business with someone who doesn't want to do business with you. And they made that pretty clear early on. So to me, they were trying to work on deals for Harry Kane. And another thing, I'm not having a backup or a plan B or a plan C or a plan D, not having, and as like we did with KK, we had about 3 or 4 players on the go at the same time we were looking at, and we chose Diaz, which fortunately has been brilliant. But I just think we need to reassess the process that we're following in signing players, especially the big ones. I think we're quite naive in that way, and it showed that this year. I think, to be honest with you, we should have walked away from Harry Kane. We shouldn't have carried on. Apart from every City fan I've spoken to would prefer Haaland. There's an issue there. In relation to Haaland was never leaving Dortmund this summer. We should have had Plan B, even on a loan deal if we needed to do for a year.
Question for you, Alan. And this, I agree with you about the Kane element. What I don't agree about is necessarily the Plan B. I think there's about 4 strikers in European football, aside from Messi, for the obvious reasons, who would come in, fit into our side, or be good enough to make it worth changing the side. And for me, Kane and Lewandowski could have come in and played our football, fitted into the team, and not upset the apple cart, for example. And then I think Haaland and Mbappe are good enough, or potentially good enough, to make it worth changing the way you play to bring them in. And so by that, I mean, Haaland won't come in and fit in at City. City will have to take a few steps back if he comes. But the upside with him is good enough that you will, to an extent, recreate the side around him. I don't think there's that many strikers after that, outside that group, who I think would have really been worth either changing the way we play to accommodate them, or would come and naturally fit in the side. I think Ferran Torres and Gabriel Jesus, they've got good goal scoring records for us. So you've got to sign a player who's a big step up from them. And I just only see Mbappe and Haaland, who are so world class that you change the team for them. And I only see Lewandowski and Kane, who would come to City and fit in. All you need to take that step is to have money. And we've got money, so we're capable of taking that step. Whether we will, I don't know. And part of me worries that taking that step is the final nail in the coffin of the Manchester City I grew up supporting. So I don't think being at that big table and becoming finally assimilated into everything we've spent most of our lives hating football-wise is necessarily a good thing. So the question, as for your point on United being a juggernaut, I think their problems are far bigger than you say. They believe the solution is if they keep signing expensive, big-name players, they're going to get better. United need a manager who is world-class to be a world-class team. United need a footballing principle, which every player is signed with that footballing principle. United need a midfield that's the best midfield in the Premier League. And they had all those things when they were a juggernaut. They had the best manager in world football. They had an absolute football playing principle. They signed everyone for the side and for their footballing abilities. And they, had at least the second best midfield or the best midfield in all those seasons. They were challenged by Chelsea and Arsenal at times. So I think United have got a lot more to do to come back than just go and sign a striker. I think they have been doing these Galactico big name moves and Instagram follower moves for a few years, and it hasn't changed their problems. So as for City, I think, at some point we are going to have to probably do a fairly big deal if we want to win the Champions League and keep going there. I don't think we're likely to be able to replace Aguero without making a reasonably sized deal. There is only a handful of players who could really come in and improve, and I think we've talked about those players already. Can we do it? Yes, we can, do we want to? I think, as I said on a call, one of these a few weeks ago, I think we're a bit reluctant from the PR and the Abu Dhabi part of view to be seen as behaving like the Qataris, or to be seen as behaving like Madrid and Barcelona, because we are trying to project a responsible business that does it and pays for itself. And I think that is one of the messages that Abu Dhabi are trying to project as part of the reason for owning City. So throwing money around is not, in what gay abandon, I guess you'd call it, is not what City are about. So I don't think we want to go and pay 180 or have headlines saying we've spent 60 million on an agent. And that will be where a deal like Haaland might become tricky to us.
I think, in short and sweet, no. City are well capable of doing these deals and for the money, because we've got plenty of money. But I think the principle behind doing it is a problem for quite a few individuals at City. Because it's not just one man that makes that decision, it's a few people that make that decision within the board. And I feel that a few of them are uncomfortable. Even Chicky might be uncomfortable, and Khaldoon, about taking this next step, even though they feel they have to or they need to. I do feel they are uncomfortable about doing this. I think the next good cross of the point is where Richard's last point, where I've sat opposite a certain executive, a director at City, and he basically came out with exactly what Rich said at the end. Exactly. They want to be self-sustaining, make profit, earn the money, and then spend that kind of money. Not go out and just do a Qatari model, Chelsea model, Madrid, money from the king type scenario. I personally think that we've been successful for the last 10 years doing the model we've got, and we shouldn't be afraid of picking a third striker from somewhere who has got ridiculous amounts of potential, like Sergio. I'm never saying there's never going to be another Sergio, because there probably isn't. But there are young players out there who are well capable. Haaland's been highlighted, and he's obviously they're looking at him as the next big thing. I personally think that City will not get Haaland. I think Haaland will go somewhere else. I think he wants the high life. He wants the Instagram status, Ronaldo type lifestyle. And I don't think Pep likes that. And while Pep's at the club, I don't think he'll go for that.
To be quite frank on this transfer window, my biggest worry was that one City player who I think is brilliant, Laporte, and two City players who I really like, Bernardo and Jesus. I was really worried they were going, and they're players who I really like, and in some ways I was more worried about who was leaving City than who was coming in. So that's been a real positive. I think Grealish I like as a signing. I feel a bit that we should have been a bit more aggressive with Kane. I do wonder whether we left Kane hang out to dry a little bit, because it seems to me that if we think Grealish is worth 100 million, that even though he's a few years older, that it's not unreasonable to say that Spurs should be getting 150 million for Kane. I mean, Mbappe, 1 year of Mbappe's contract's 180 million. So it does surprise me, and this is all based on rumours in the press, it does surprise me that we didn't pony up 150 million or something a bit more transparently for Kane, if that was who Pep really wanted. That said, at the end, the positive thing of Bernardo staying, because I think we'd already thought Jesus and Laporte were going to stay, that was huge, because he is absolutely vital. And, if I was given, almost given a swap between Bernardo and Kane, I don't think that would be an easy call for me as a City fan. I think Bernardo's that important.
I think, if you're asking me what I think about the transfer window, I think it's been a disaster, to be honest with you. I'm not happy. If you looked at what our requirements were and our needs were to make the team stronger and better before the transfer window started, everyone would say we needed an out-and-out left back. You know, Fernandinho is 37, near enough, too old. I'm sorry, great player, great person, great leader, all the things above that you would love. Get him on the coaching staff, go and get a CDM in. That's what I was thinking. Okay. And obviously a replacement for Sergio as a striker. So we needed a striker, which probably would be the hardest of the three to attract and get over the line. Okay. And they spent all summer negotiating with a club who didn't want to sell Harry Kane, who wouldn't take our calls, and they've wasted all the time. We signed Grealish, who, yes, he's a fantastic player. Yes, he's talented. Yes, he's one of the most attractive players from the Euros this year. That's the truth. But do we need him? No. So I'm a bit annoyed at the process that they followed and not looking at those three areas where we need to strengthen. Because if you look at the games that we lost last year, a lot of the goals that we conceded all came down that right-hand side, left full-back side, okay, where we have got huge problems. Zinchenko fills a role for the time being, okay, and he's done, and I'm not going to knock him, 1.6 million, the amount of effort and how he's improved is unbelievable. But if he gets injured, in our current situation today, we could play Laporte there, we could play Aki there as a stopgap, but it's not a long-term solution. We've been looking for a left back, as Richard and me discussed previously, for at least 4 or 5 years, and that to me is bad management. So I'm not happy with the whole transfer strategy and execution this year at all. I think it's been shocking, to be honest with you. And, you know, not getting a striker and not having 3 or 4 players to look at. I know, and everyone's obsessed with this one person at Dortmund. I just think we should be looking back now and thinking, hang on, you know, you mentioned it yourself, Rob, Danny Ings, we could have had him for a couple of years. You know, had it been a heartbeat.
Why Jesus and Torres are both far better goal scoring records, you know, per minute than he has, and are far more suited to sitting in the team. Why?
They're not a number 9.
But we don't play with a number 9. Kane wasn't even being signed as a number 9. Kane was being signed because he's a number 9 who plays like a false 9 and can, you know, adapt to the team and come back and set up. That's why we wanted Kane, precisely.
I know.
He's not Danny Ings.
But the thing was, we were dealing with an owner at Tottenham that refused to let him go. Refused. A bit like the Napoli guy with KK the year before. It's a nightmare to deal with.
So we had 2 choices then. We had to pay, you know, if Kane wasn't, we probably only had one choice, and that was to go and spend 100 million on Lewandowski for a 33-year-old. Because that's what Bayern wanted. I mean, that's a mad deal. That's as bad as paying 30 million for a 37-year-old.
Well, I'm angry that we've not signed a left fullback this year. Really angry about that. All right, and we're exposed down that side massively. That should have been the first priority this year. Back in June, after when the Euros started, let's go and sign a left fullback. And maybe more angry when they've been looking at Nunes saying, "Oh, he's still a bit young and he's still learning and he's got a ridiculous amount of potential. 50 million is a bit too high," and then he goes on loan at PSG.
Yeah, well, he's signed it. It's a loan with a deal.
Right?
With a deal.
So why have we not just said, all right, we'll take you on loan for 12 months with a view to buy at the end of it and taking a punt, if that's what we needed to do to get that lad over the line? Why are we not doing that?
I suspect it's because we've got a problem of Laporte, Ake and Cancelo in game time, and we don't want to add another defender. In truth, we don't want to add another defender into the mix when we've probably already got 2 or 3. So here's a question for you, and I know what Alan's answer is probably going to be the opposite of me, but I would rather in our side play Raz centre forward every day ahead of Danny Ings.
No.
His movement, the way he plays, I would rather play him every day than Danny Ings. And he's a vastly better footballer. And, if we're talking about cups and stuff, I'd want to play, Carling Cup. I don't want Danny Ings in that, so I don't want Liam Delap.
I'm a bit peeved off with the obviously the signings that we should have got and the targets we should have got and the areas of our weaknesses within the team. I'm happy that Bernardo stayed because I was shitting myself that it was going to go, and happy that Laporte stayed because I think we absolutely need the pair of them. I think Bernardo's the engine and the legs in midfield that we don't have. And people say, oh, he doesn't score enough goals, blah, blah, blah. If we don't have Bernardo in the team, it doesn't tick. It's as simple as that. Right? And he can play in three different positions, and each one of them he does as well as each other. So I think he was a massive plus in the transfer window. Laporte was a huge plus. I just think he threw his toys out of the cot last year. I think the players that so-called wanted to leave that the media said, which most of them were lying, I feel that they were all pissed off at the end of the season that they didn't make the Champions League team for that game, which is a prestigious game for a player. It's a prestigious game that they want to play in, and they were pissed off with Pep for totally wrecking that potential Champions League win, because he did wreck it. He did another one of his moments, but I think there was a fallout from that. I am concerned next season we throw all the eggs in one basket to we know who from Dortmund, and then have a massive meltdown if we don't get him, because there's a very good possibility we won't get him. Let's be completely honest. And if people are making statements that he's the only one, there's no one else, well, I disagree with that. And it's all right saying who. There's always someone comes out of the woodwork. Always.
Yeah, I think if City are going to get him, they might have to get him in January. If the clause kicks in January, like everything says, and I think whoever gets him probably get him in January because someone's going to try and steal a March. I think the one thing in City's favour is that actually there are not that many sides who can get him. There's us, there's Paris, there's United, there's Bayern. I don't think Madrid will got Mbappe coming in, and if he goes on a free, Madrid are going to have to pay him a 7-figure sum a week. So Madrid haven't got loads of money. So there's maybe 4 clubs. I think Bayern have the same problems in signing a massive star that we do. They don't like overpaying. They don't like massive wages. United and Paris will. They've shown they'll pretty much pay anything. I mean, I read today that United's 3 summer signings are on higher wages than 13 Premier League clubs' total wage bills this year. So they are throwing absolutely stupid money. So them and Paris are a big danger in terms of financially getting Haaland. But I think Haaland has a plan, apart from making himself rich, about where he thinks is going to best suit his career and get him goals. So it'd be really interesting to know what him and his dad really think about where they're going to best make him the world's best player. Do they want to take on the Premier League, which has its, immense profile, but can be more challenging? Or do they want to take an easier option somewhere like PSG or Bayern? I don't know why. We don't seem to have left backs coming through the academy. We don't seem to like signing them. When we do sign them, they give us the finger. I mean, there's something strange there, and I think fullbacks are about the most demanding role in a Pep side as well. So I don't think you can play 60 games as a fullback. Even someone who I think is the best fullback in the world now, Walker, you probably don't want to play him more than 45.